Mike Brennan, and we got, well, here he is, the doom and gloom fellow himself, Richard Stiennon, who likes to come in and tell us about all the very, very bad people in cyber world out there. And we got a few of them this time, don't we, Richard?
Just a few, but I object to being called the doom and gloom because I'm such an optimist.
Okay, well, the optimist who tells us doom and gloom stories. How's
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Just
But how the good guys are going to win
Yeah,
eventually.
yeah, yeah. We always have to have the good guys win. So some of the bad guys are at a company I've never heard of before called Škoda Auto, truck
sure.
company. Why don't you talk
Yeah.
a little bit about Škoda Auto and what they did
Well,
wrong?
yeah, Skoda's good guys, of course, but just a vulnerability in the way their website operated led to bad guys getting in and stealing all their customer data. So kind of classic, right?
Where have we heard this one before?
Yeah, I know.
So,
Getting a little repetitive. So
you
I guess
know,
Skoda is an online shop, which is classic thing for people to attack. Um, yeah, big company that you haven't heard of, Czech car maker, 34,000 employees. So, well up there. That I think puts them in the global 2000.
well, and then what happens is the bad guys find a vulnerability somewhere in the network way down low. Maybe it's a tier two or a tier three. And then they just work their way up until they get to the big boys and rip them off. So,
Yep. Yep. And in this case, we don't know what e-commerce portal they're using, or at least I haven't. I guess you can just poke it to figure out. But the news articles aren't reporting on it because they can't know what it is. Anyways, that probably indicates that others using the same e-commerce portal or the infrastructure behind it could also be vulnerable.
Okay, so what do you think a hacker does with information like that? What happens next?
Yeah, so if they've stolen a bunch of customer credentials, one, they sell them on the dark web, and then credential stuffing attackers, especially in Europe where Skoda sells cars, will start, just connecting to the most popular bank accounts and using that person's email and password that they use for the Skoda website. And all you got to do is just try them all, right? Somebody's going to repeat using passwords and username, and they'll get into their bank accounts.
hmm.
This is why we use different passwords for every account we have.
Ah, well, I just keep forgetting mine, so I change them all the time.
Yeah,
That's the way I do it.
exactly. Yeah. Use a unique one every time, and then
Yeah.
you forgot it, so you have to go through the rigmarole to get a new one, and that's like two-factor authentication. All right.
Okay, so what's the latest in ransomware? Have there been any major episodes of that lately?
Yeah, an interesting one was the what's it called, Grafana, which is an open source company, and they got through vulnerability in just the way that the keys for their um, uh, GitHub repository are made available. Hackers got in and stole all of their source code. Now, mind you,
Ugh.
it's like big deal, right? It's open source. So, but then, of course, like a lot of companies, they have the open source version, which is maintained by the community, and then the private version, which is maintained by the experts who invented the stuff, and you pay for that one. So, um, so yeah, so somebody's been uh, taken down by attackers, sold the source code, asked for a ransom, or else they would release it. And Grafana said, "Nah, we're not going to pay you." So they realized, it's not that huge a risk, and it's, frankly, in many places, it's illegal to pay ransomware. So, and it's kind of uh, ballsy to take that attitude. Um, and you'd be in a great position if you felt so confident that you wouldn't be hurt by that happening, that you could just refuse to pay the ransom.
Wouldn't bigger companies be backing up all their data anyway?
Duh.
So you'd
Yeah,
think, right? I mean,
yeah, yeah. When people talk about a utopia where we've used AI to patch all of our software and there won't be any vulnerabilities in software, I just kind of chuckle because yeah, if if people did the right thing, then we wouldn't have any ransomware whatsoever. Ransomware never would have got off the ground. Every time somebody said, we stole, we encrypted your hard drive on your PC, the response would have been, oh, great. Yeah, it took 15 minutes to restore that from backup. Big deal. Move on. And they never would have gotten to the next phase, which is threatening to release your software or your, emails, whatever. So it never would have gotten anywhere. So people don't do the basics of hygiene and just what you're supposed to do. And, you're listening to this program. We just talked about backup. If you don't back up your computers tonight, you'll be sorry, because that's invariably when it happens.
Yeah. Well, then you don't put anything in an email that you wouldn't want to see on the front page of the Wall Street Journal either if you're a company.
That's right. That's right. Email, text, anywhere, anything.
Yeah.
Another incident you cited is TeamPCP, interesting name, has been identified as running a coordinated campaign from March 19th to April 24th with 7 distinct waves identified. Why don't you explain what that all means to the layman?
Yeah. So the team finds trusted artifacts in developer tool chains. And now we're talking like GitHub repositories again. They poison the distribution channel so that others will download it and use it. So this could be with open source software. And then, everybody who downloads that component of software now has a backdoor or does crypto mining or whatever for them. And this is becoming rampant lately. PCP, of course, is one of the gangs that does this. It's been very, very active lately.
And where are they out of?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I do not know. It's kind of hard to tell. Well,
you can usually trust it's somewhere in Eastern Europe or maybe North Korea. So
pretty much, yep. One of the super interesting things that's happened just this week is, remember last time we talked, we were talking about Mythos, which was the new version of Anthropic's AI that was so good at discovering software vulnerabilities that it seemed to scare them internally. So they haven't released it yet, though. My guessing is that by July they'll release that super powerful model, which is a good thing. Don't forget, AI is progressing at this rapid rate, and the models are getting bigger and better, and everything is about them is better. So anything you were waiting for AI to do, it's going to be able to do it in the next few weeks. But in the meantime, it is really, really good at finding vulnerabilities. And crazy when you dig into what it's all about, it'll put together 5 or 6 different vulnerabilities. One that does privilege escalation, one that gets initial access, and on their own aren't deemed critical vulnerabilities. But you put them all together, and bam, it owns the machine. So very, very scary. And guess what? Google researchers have seen the first exploit that was developed by AI in the wild. So we've seen Mythos, when they announced this new availability to a select group called Glasswing, Anthropic had already discovered 500 new zero-day vulnerabilities and exploits. So that was enough to get everybody excited and talking about what are we going to do in a world where there are thousands more vulnerabilities every day. How are we going to handle that? Because we can't handle the number that we have today, which are still open questions. But here's a case of bad actors, according to Google, who analyzes the exploit code when they get a hold of it. And in this case, it was a Python kind of script, so they could see the source code. And the flaw exploited this hidden trust assumption in the target software's login logic, enabling two-factor authentication bypass with valid credentials. So pretty dang sophisticated. Not a hugely valuable target, but hey, these things are easy to do now if you've got access to a good large language model, which could be any large language model. Google claims that their large language model, Gemini, was not used. But what's cool to me is the similarity in how they discovered it to the way we can tell, at least early on, when something is written by AI. Remember how we had all complained about M dashes everywhere as AI.
Yeah.
AI
And extra flowery, lots of adjectives. Yeah,
yeah,
right.
yeah, exactly. It's exactly how Google identified this malware as being created by an AI. It had uh, um, extra documentation. You know, how you can comment inside a code. So overly flowery comments inside the code. Um, it used what was just like there was a flaw. It was so cool, but basically, it's stuff that is something that AI models tend to create in code, and one of those is verbose comments.
And
Something
I
most
think, oh,
don't.
sorry, and I
It-
think the scariest hack of all is 7-Eleven got hacked.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so 7-Eleven, largest convenience store chain in the world, and supposedly over 600,000 Salesforce records appeared on the leak site of the attacker, which is called ShinyHunters. I don't know where they come up with these names. Um, and so same thing there, right? Now this is CRM. This includes people were applying for a franchise. So if you want to that's how they're the biggest, right? It's a franchise operation. If you want to own a 7-Eleven and you know, started applying, you probably have provided a lot of financial information to demonstrate your, financial viability, I guess. So yeah, so they could have a lot of information about you. I hope not your bank account information if you applied to own a 7-Eleven. So just be on the alert. I don't think most of us. I don't think customers are going to be that much
Yeah,
of
I
a
was
concern.
wondering about that. If everybody uses credit cards, things like that, would that be in there? Or
I, you know what? I am always amazed at the stupidity of how people architect stuff. They could very possibly be that they would maintain credit cards if they have a customer loyalty program. Then for sure they might want to do that. Um,
So, kids, the moral here is always pay for that Slurpee in cash. Right.
yeah, yeah. So you can't, yeah. I guess yeah, that would be a complete protection for you when going to retail stores.
yeah, but hardly anybody carries cash. I'm one of the
Yeah,
legacies that still does. I always carry a little cash, but just about everybody I know waves a debit card or a credit card or something, uh,
or phone.
or a
Yep.
phone. Yeah, all those different ways of that don't involve cash. So
That's
yeah, I was wondering about that when I was reading it while you were talking, and I thought, just the business record. Is that all?
all
So
right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And some retail operations you may have noticed don't accept cash anymore. Um, they just have.
Sports venues. I just encountered that. I went to a Toledo Mud Hens game.
Uh-huh.
No cash, nowhere.
Interesting.
yeah, and U of M Stadium does the same thing. And so those $12 beers, God, I'm not kidding. This skunk beer is $12, and if you get like a nice premium beer, it's $16. You think about that. Hell, I can buy a case for that. But anyway, I
Yeah, keep you
digress.
sober.
But yes, I'm flaming U of M Stadium. Those people, So, but
So you're paying for the experience, right? It's nothing better than sitting in the seat, sun hitting you, and drinking that beer.
yeah, yeah, making them rich. They sold several $1 million worth of beer. Just think about 100,000 people. They're probably 50,000 are going to buy a beer, and the lowest price is $12. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna get bad mail from U of M, but so be it. So season's ticket holder, so I can say what I want, right? So
That's right. That's right.
what else is going on out there in that crazy, wacky world of cybersecurity?
Yeah, there's constant updates, right? And right now it's the impact of AI on the industry, right? So we talked about Google, and we've been keeping track of this on your show since last May, when first there was the hypothetical this could be done, and then there was the evidence that China had used Anthropic to exploit something. So Anthropic can, if they research it, see what you're asking, so they can see that their tool was used to help China create an exploit. Um, I don't think it was ever seen in the wild, though, but that's the way with nation state stuff. And that whole progression throughout the year, because then we had Mythos come about and Anthropic demonstrate that they could find all these vulnerabilities, and that's all it points to all of us is this world is changing dramatically, very very quickly.
What else is going on out there, Richard?
Well, let's see. Shameless plug. I launched the ebook version of Guardians of the Machine Age, my book on AI security.
Why don't you
And
hold that up so people can see it?
Yeah, I got a copy somewhere. Oh wait, I got a whole stack right on the floor. Ta-da! And if you're prejudiced against having a pound and a half worth of printed material in a hardcover book, now you can get the paperback from Amazon and the ebook. So
Okay, well, I'm a trade paperback guy because I
me too.
usually only read these things once.
Yep.
Yours might be an exception though, because it's kind of a reference. You might
It,
go back to it several times.
yeah, it's a reference for sure. And
Well, yeah, just assume that nobody knows anything about your dashboard. Why don't you talk a little bit about that real quick?
Yeah,
yeah,
really.
sure. It's going through some amazing evolutions right now, but the dashboard is a view into data on 4,040 cybersecurity vendors and their 11,000 products. And it's meant for security teams at large organizations to one, track the products that they currently own and find new products to fill gaps and identify those gaps because we map every single product to MITRE attack, MITRE defend, NIST, and so you map your entire security stack to those frameworks and then see where you're light and where you're maybe over invested and then work from there. And it's getting a lot of attention from integrators and resellers. So you've got one of the biggest resellers in the country is picking it up, going to represent us, and then we've got a reseller in the UK using it, and one in Istanbul using it.
That's where our good friend Merely lives. Yeah. So I'll
Yeah,
have to get Merely involved,
yeah,
So.
definitely. maybe he'll say, "Hey, I know those guys."
That's
Maybe
it. I just
maybe put
Istanbul's a
in.
small city. It's only like 20 million people.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure everybody knows everybody.
yeah. It's a great city, great city.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and then I can hint that we're revamping the entire product in the coming weeks, and it's going to be much more accessible. There's so many people who want the data. It's just every day I have to turn them down, or I don't turn them down if they're willing to pay for it. That's fine, but it's very expensive. So if you're a job seeker or a student or a sole proprietor or whatever, you kind of balk at our enterprise level pricing. That won't be a problem anymore. Just everybody can use it.
And then everybody watching this video, if they use code 919, then Richard will give them priority treatment, right, Richard?
That's absolutely true.
Okay. And so now that we've got you all set up for that final touch of the shameless plug, go ahead and tell people how they can reach out to you to look at your dashboard or to get a demo or whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, start at dashboard.it-harvest.com. And right there, you don't see much other than the pricing page, but you'll be able to get a demo. Just click on that, fill in the fields, and we'll get back to you right away. Personally, no AI involved.
All
Well,
right.
you promise, though, right, that we won't be talking to an agentic or something, right?
You won't be talking to an agentic. Now, mind you, an agent will tell me that you reached out and give me the form information on my Slack channel. But yeah, it'll be me responding.
Well, you got a business partner in that, a young man that does a lot of your coding work and stuff, right?
Yeah. Maximilian is a genius behind the platform, and you wouldn't believe how complicated it is to actually concisely grab all the data and make sense of it. It's just mind numbing.
Okay, good to know.
And
All right. Thank you so much, Richard Stiennon, for being with us here today. IT-Harvest is the name of the consulting firm. And Guardians of the Machine Age is the name of the book. I'm looking at it on Amazon right now. It's $25 for the hardcover, $17 for the trade paperback. And that'll have a whole bunch of interesting stuff in it for you about protecting information.
$8 for the ebook.
Ah, yes. $8 for the ebook. If you'd rather read it that way, it's a little more portable. You know, in hardcover, you don't need, you know, electricity.
There are a lot of charts. I don't know about you, but I don't like looking at charts on my phone. So
yeah. Okay. Thanks very much, Richard, for being with us today.